This is the Perone song from our buddy Steven Cogswell. Get it at awtfy.com. That's AWTFY.com/Perone.
So when you get out, there's always some restaurant that's turned into a nightclub that's just bumping like. Oh, I think this is from the new album.
Like the music is all over the map. It starts off with this, you know, these unironic stingers.
This is a good place to start.
Do you know what a Perone is? It looks like a bong filled with gin, but it's got like this giant boner poking out the side. But you grab it by the bong neck, and you tilt the boner towards your mouth, and it just shoots gin into your mouth. Now, if you're cool, it doesn't end up all over your face, chest, and neck.
Yeah.
Once the stream is going into your mouth,
Okay.
and then you bring it back in, you land it just in time.
Where's the glass gin? I can't find it again. Where's the glass gin?
Well, I'll tell you what, speaking of garbage, mid-selfie that he sees in the reflection of the screen that everybody's interested, they applaud spontaneously, and we're like, oh, hey, I can tell you guys enjoyed that. Thank you. Have a good evening. Right? And pause. And the kid goes, are you Brian Brushwood?
Where's the glass gin? I can't find it again. Where's the glass gin? I can't find it again.
Good music?
Probably like a Yanni.
Oh, finally, it's Tuesday night, and all is right with the world. My name is Merle, not to be confused with the other guy, Curl. No other names rhyme with. Sorry, I don't know. Hey guys, it's me, Brian Brushwood, live in Austin, Texas, joined by my BFF.
That was our initial act.
What, it was Earl and Curl?
We wound up settling. Brian and I are, by our real names, we were trained thespians, so we were trying to figure out what was going to be our two-man act, and we wound up settling on Unbearable Hipster and Suburban Dad. But initially, it was Merle and Curl.
That's right. Well, and as you remember, Merle, of course, was a congressional intern, and what was it Curl did again?
Oh, well, Curl was, he was just a salt-to-the-earth actuarial accountant. And he just came from a long family line of banjo-playing number crunching.
And of course, our act, it would start with a blackout, and then you would hear in the beginning.
Yeah. Ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, ding. Oh, 1 + 2 = 3. Unless you're talking about Merle and me, then we're doing our comedy show. Ding, bing, bing, bong.
All them numbers, they can be so intimidating. That's why we've made this show to grow.
Hey, Merle, ain't you supposed to be in Congress?
Oh, doggone it. You know what? I got to represent me one of them Democrats. And the audience goes, boo.
Exclusively played to very partisan crowds. In fact, we were the after show for a great. It was actually really great. A Pat Buchanan freestyle act. Like, he would just take random words from the crowd and just like string them all together. You'd think he would have wrote it down before, but he never did. It was amazing.
Well, and especially at the end, he had the giant 50-foot gator. That was his big gimmick. Was like, you want to see the 50-foot gator? All right. He was like he was like Gallagher, and that he was constantly teasing the 50-foot gator that was coming up, but would give his political discourse freestyle Pat Buchanan infused comedy.
Exactly. Yeah. And then everybody would get their shirt signed, and all their Gator merch and everything would be sold, and then they would refile in to the auditorium. Very rare for theatrical presentations to fully let out and then refile the audience, but that was just how we demanded it to be. Well, and then we would start our act.
Well, and we were really crushing it, man. People used to call us the Kings of the Smoky Mountains, and it was a great gig up until we insisted on a legal document certifying us as actual kings of the Smoky Mountains.
You want to know what? Look, contracts are weird, and lesson to everybody, all the young performers out there: know your worth. know your worth, but also know your limits. As it turns out for us, when we were renegotiating with Pat, we wanted to be literal kings, and we were informed on a city, state, and federal level that's impossible.
Yeah, and then he fed us to his 50-foot alligator. The end.
And then they shit out us.
Man, it's good to be a second-generation comedian, though. I feel like we're refined. We've been purified by the experience.
You're like, that's like the worst version of Pinocchio.
It's like let's
shit out the butt.
Hey man, speaking of us pretending to be funny, number one, fucking last week was a blast. Like that song, being able to share that Otfi song with the Auntie Donna voice. You got me listening to Auntie Donna all day today, by the way. But being able to share that with the Ice Cream Social Boys was just a blast because they finally got to experience the magic trick that we've experienced week after week after week through the amazing talents of the incredible Steven Cogswell.
Oh, yeah. So if you did not listen to last week's episode, please go ahead and do. And if you have listened to last week's episode, then go listen to us on Ice Cream Social. That is the order in which it was recorded, at least. So that's jokes will pay off in Ice Cream Social that were made on Night Attack because of when they were recorded. But then if you really want to get the extended edition, go ahead and listen to Matt Donnelly's podcast, Abracababble. Because Brian and I were on that, and that was a little bit more of a drier magic conversation, but
which was good.
7 hours of recording.
Well, and it's good that we finally had a dry magic conversation because up until then, the number one complaint I could imagine anyone had is that there wasn't enough high-minded, thoughtful talk about social media and other tech-related issues in our podcasting.
Oh, God, yeah. So a huge shout out to the Ice Cream Social guys. They're the best. Hopefully more. This will not be the last time that we cross paths in 2019. We will do much more going forward.
All right, so where do we begin? There's so much. There's so much to deconstruct and talk about. I can't believe. Was it really just over a week ago that we were in Las Vegas?
It was just over a week ago that we were in Las Vegas. We were there for Tenacious D.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, what else?
I bought the world's most expensive Miller Lite.
How much do we want to mine our vacation for content?
It depends on what parts, because just before that, I think we'll hold back some of the, like I did a magic show that we talked about on Abracababble, but we're going to have one of the people who were there. So I figure we'll talk about that here in a bit. Okay. You know what? Let's just jump. You know what? So far, by the way, if you listen, we're going to do a free Night Attack weekend. You get to experience what it's like to be a patron and get the full pre-show and post-show and all that stuff. Let's talk about the star of the weekend.
All right, guys, we got an album coming out.
Oh, that's not where. Okay, go ahead. Oh, was there? Can there please be something else?
There is something else. I didn't know where you were going, Brian. I thought you were leading into us roasting Price because you mentioned the pre-show.
No. I'm going to assume at this point that all that pre-show has made it into the feed and that people are experiencing how great the pre-show is. I want to talk about
We still need to do the announcement.
The bit.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that in the Patreon. If you want to talk about what I think you want to talk about, and you have a sign off,
I am doing my best to negotiate a contract with my eyes and getting no recognition. Maybe it's just that she's too stiff and not limber enough to. And here we are.
No, that's fine.
Okay, she says it's fine.
All right. So.
Except certain parts need to be edited out. Like,
yes. What could this possibly be?
We are in Vegas, and for longtime listeners,
what could this be? Oh, Bryce hasn't heard any of this.
I've never heard this.
All right, dig this. Longtime listeners to the show will probably be surprised to know last weekend was the first time that myself, my wife, Ashley, Brian, and Bonnie have ever hung out, just the four of us, that wasn't at a convention, that wasn't at a place where we were like running from place to place, or we were also entertaining people. Like, this was just the four of us hanging out as friends, and it was awesome. It was just an absolute blast. We had so much fun, never a dull moment. It was great.
And even then, we couldn't resist trying to figure out some way to do some work. So we did, that 8-hour recording rock block with the Ice Cream Social Gang. But there's hey man, pot's legal in Las Vegas.
Yes, legal in Las Vegas.
Right.
Now, there's a little place, right? We were staying in the Rio. There's a place right down the road called the Apothecary Shoppe.
Shoppe.
And it's
me,
very,
Shoppe. Why is it
ornate.
that I'm illegal anywhere else? It's me, Shoppe.
It's like, oh, it's less illegal when you're wearing a bow tie. Hello, sir. And then there's a barbershop weed quartet, and it's very, they'll shave you with weed or something.
So, we'll leave out the why, but Bonnie, who has no interest in the dope, wanted to buy as a gift some hand cream with that was CBD magic, right?
Yes. So the way that it was explained was it is a topical
analgesic
hand cream for joints mostly, so you are
you put it on your weed so that it's creamy weed.
only real heads understand. You got to grease your weed up. So so we have this stuff and we bring it back because it just makes more sense because they're running some discount that we are going to buy it all together, and then we're going to, split it up for whoever wants what. Right. And as we're splitting it up, the hand cream, for whatever reason, either somebody opens it to smell it or something like that. But as it's being closed, a generous glob of the hand cream falls to the side.
Oh dear. No, well, I mean, what, are we just going to throw that away? That doesn't make sense.
At which point, Bonnie Brushwood has no interest in anything else. Any of the other party favors, any of the vapes, any of the edibles. No. Not for Bonnie, except for that one dollop of hand cream.
And I would like to believe that it was just that she's so value-minded. She didn't want anything to go to waste. She's like the Native Americans. Right. Use the entire buffalo, right? She's just like, well, that would be a shame to throw this away.
So Bonnie, applies it to both of her hands, and then we decide that we're going to move on down to the Guy Fieri themed Mexican restaurant.
What is the name of it?
I don't know.
Like Captain Donkey's Flavor Vessel or
Don
whatever.
Quixote sauce is.
Now that would be clever.
That would
be
too
good.
Clever.
That's too
yeah,
good.
No.
Yeah, no, it's
he wouldn't
like,
pay for that.
It's like Freak Nasty Burrow Man.
But it's BURROW, like the English word.
Exactly, and it's a mole on the cover. So it is at that point, and I will come clean and say that one of the things that were given to us as part of the discount was some hard candy, for which hit pretty hard as I am sitting there at the table. I slowly start to notice that Bonnie Brushwood, despite we're at the end of our little vacation, the final evening of us all hanging out together, is the most energetic amongst the four.
Well, which is weird because like the whole time, like even as the CBD hand sauce, it's like whatever. Like none of that's real. This is placebo, the gathering, right?
CBD has no THC. If
Right.
anybody doesn't know what it is, it's
Correct.
the other part of weed
But I'll tell
that
you
doesn't
what.
get you impaired.
Apparently, there's a fucking wicked ass placebo effect that comes with that because Bonnie was in rare form for the next 2 hours.
So now for the first time, we bring in Bonnie, the invisible wife.
Limber Bonnie.
As Bonnie, what was your name during that evening, the evening of last Sunday?
I guess like Limberfingers, Bonnie.
Yes, do you not remember? Did you black out?
I don't know. Just
So there is this moment.
everything was
Like, I don't know. We have a deconstruct. You got very silly. Like, at some point, we're riding in the Uber, and like, rather than silence, you begin narrating your Facebook feed to everybody who will listen.
Well, I didn't think there was anything to it until you pointed that out. I go, well, maybe. I thought I was just like, oh.
Brian's in the front seat. It's me and Ashley in the back. And Bonnie is just like, oh, my mom got new plants. Oh, I didn't know that she was in 3rd grade. Oh, that's a nice dress. Oh, man, I wonder if she's going to go to the public school. Man, I don't know if that's the greatest car color.
Even then, I feel like you're giving away too many contextual details. It was almost like turtles. Ha! You know? I'm from Mars. Like she was doing riffing commentary on just whatever she
That's
saw.
only she could see.
It's at that point that there is a conversation that I've never had with Bonnie before, and I don't know if it will ever happen again. She leans over to me, leans over my wife, and says, "Who is the most popular person that follows you?"
Oh, wait. Oh, that's right. She pulled out her Twitter dick. That was a weird.
No, she tells me, "Show me your dick."
Oh, that's right. Those are the exact words. She
That's
said, "Who's the
her.
most popular person that follows you?" Pause. Show me your dick. Which again, there's being placebo effect silly, and then there's like, I can picture no world where out of nowhere Bonnie drops this bomb.
I have hung out with Bonnie in many occasions. Celebratory, somber, very drunk, mildly drunk. Never once in my friendship with Bonnie Brushwood has there ever been a pointed moment, alone or in company, in which she leaned over and used the language, "Show me your dick."
And also, to you and collateral damage, your wife is
my
sitting there
wife!
watching.
And it turns out she's got a better dick.
It turns out.
Yeah.
Popular follower.
Turns out that's what the D in CBD stands for, is Bonnie's dick. See Bonnie's dick.
But that was the key. The key was that every time I would be like, "Bonnie, how you feeling?" The only response would just be, "Limber."
And you're missing the Mandrake spell casting fingers. She says.
And it was, oh my God.
Oh.
It was one of the fucking funniest nights I have ever experienced in my entire life.
It was. I was gonna say, like, it was an epic trip full stop. I mean, first of all, for all of us to be spending time just, hanging out together, but also like I remember loudly to an empty craps table explaining to Justin how craps work. we walk.
All right, here, before we get there, can I explain to the audience that Brian Brushwood as a gambler is a really the only thing I can liken it to. Brian Brushwood with money is like at a casino is like a suicide bomber with explosives. Like It's all going to go away at some point. It's just, let's make the biggest possible splash. So we're up a little late. Brian and I are just hanging out. The, Ashley and Bonnie are upstairs. And we're playing blackjack. And we go on a little bit of a run. We're both up. Like, I think, like, I was up, like, 400 or something. Brian was up a little bit more. And we go on this run. We lose one big bet. And we're like, you want to know what? This is the time. This is the time we leave, tip out the dealer. We were like, fucking A, this vacation just got even better. We're going to go. We have the presence of mind that we're going to go walk upstairs with money in our pocket. And we are on the same page, lockstep, for literally one step. We took one step away from the blackjack table, and on the way, it's craps. And then there goes those eyes. The Ryan Brushwood suicide bomber eyes that just turn to me and go, you know how to play craps?
So we walk up and there's nobody there. It's the perfect time to teach someone how to play craps. There's three croupiers or whatever, and with the cold dead gunslinger's eyes, and then meanwhile, entirely too loud, I explained very succinctly to Justin. I was like, hey, what's going on? My name is Brian. This is my friend Justin. Justin's never played craps before. I'm going to do my best to explain to him how it goes. You just let me know if I'm right. Justin, do you remember the late 90s?
Oh, yeah, Brian, of course.
Right. Okay, that's what craps is. What you do is you lay money on the table, you make a bunch of investments, and you just assume that nothing bad will ever happen and they'll yield dividends forever. Then eventually 9/11 happens, and we all pretend that nobody could have seen that coming. And then
you're mixing your metaphors.
And then I turned to the croupier, and I'm like, "Is that track?" And then this pause. He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty much it."
I love that Bryce is just going, you're mixing metaphors?
Well, the dot-com bubble doesn't need 9/11.
I mean, it didn't hurt.
Yeah, but that would preclude Brian from screaming, 9/11 happened every time somebody craps
So
out.
we go on. The game becomes, we play craps, and we keep putting down money on more bets. And I was just like, oh, I heard AOL is about to buy Time Warner. And then it's like, you're like, oh, E-Trade. Don't let a money manager manage your funds. Do it yourself. And you're like, tech stocks, that's where it's at. And then eventually a 7 gets rolled, and then just, it's like, oh, no, nobody could have seen that coming. I mean, there's nothing to be done about that. We must build again. And then we lost all of our money.
We lost literally everything. We were walking to the room with hundreds of dollars, and then we spent all of it as Brian screamed about 9/11.
How long were you at the craps table? 10 minutes?
Long enough.
20 minutes? No, come on.
Yeah, we couldn't have been there for more than 20, and 15 of it was high-fiving with a SpaceX vibration engineer.
Oh, my God. Justin
looked and sound like Maui from Moana, and he just kept like high five as I kept rolling.
Justin caught a street.
The money. Hey bro, thanks man, bro, yeah, thanks. Great.
Justin caught a hot hand, and it's pretty great. And of course, that's what you do. It's like you spend the money 5 times, knowing that there's a good chance that on the 6th time you'll have that amazing, weird, invulnerable feeling for a fleeting 12 seconds before you pay $200 for a Miller Lite.
I don't know. I think you guys might have met the best engineer at SpaceX.
Yeah. Oh, it turns out he swapped out the dice. And
No. The vibration engineer.
Oh, got it.
Did we want to talk about the most expensive Miller Lite?
I mean, look. Turns out, you get to drink for free when you're playing the blackjack, right? And then
you couldn't keep it in your pants.
We caught.
Oh.
Sorry, go ahead, Bryce.
No, go ahead, because you got to wait a while, right? You have to be there a while. They know how long you've been at that table.
Yeah. So you place an order,
okay,
and then you lose 4 $25 hands in a row.
Okay.
And then you're like, oh fuck, they gotta be back.
Where's
soon.
that drink? Yeah.
And then you lose another 4.
Oh my god.
And then you pay $225 for a Miller Lite.
The most expensive Miller Lite.
Did you tip?
We thought we were smart because the lady was at the table, and we were like, lady, We're sitting down. We're sitting down right now. 2 Miller Lights.
You did this as you sat down.
As we sat down, and we're just like, we're literally just here. We're here for the free beer, mister. So whatever. We're at a $25 table. How bad can it be? Smash cut. $200 later.
Pretty bad. Weirdly, and I mentioned this, the last thing we did was get a pedicure. By the way, are you still rocking your toenail polish?
I still got
it's
my
like
silver nail polish.
there you go.
Okay.
It's like the gift that keeps. You can't.
None of this plays.
Yeah.
Brian's toes are sparkly blue.
They sure are. But the weirdly,
He keeps wearing flip flops too.
yeah. No, I'm owning it.
You left it. The
All the
kids
small
love it.
town locals, man. Go ahead. I'll accept your second glances. Go for it. I felt better that we spent more money collectively on the pedicure than I lost at the gambling. That felt good.
We versus I.
Yeah, that's it's a hell of a way to justify it.
Well, it was a lot of fun, but not as much fun as the fine folks listening at home are going to have when our brand new comedy album comes out.
Yes, and you want to know what, Brian?
Yes.
Coolest thing about patreon.com/Night Attack, the way that you can not only support the show and you can get pre-show and post-show, but you can right now, if you are a $5 patron, and I want to see everybody right here in the chat right now who's a $5 patron or if they have switched to being a $5 patron, you can get tracks from the album that is going to come out on January 22nd, and you can tell us which ones, because there's a lot on the fence, right? Things that might make the album, things that might not make the album. At $5, you get to listen to all of them. You get to tell us which ones have to make the album, which ones we can use for promo. But even more, if you are at $10 right now, you can listen to that album, right? The rough cut right now. Right now, you can just stop listening to me, go listen to the album if you're a $10 patron right now.
Also, don't forget that when you are a patron at any level, you get the pre-show, the post-show, and all the beautiful, gorgeous rocket sauce in between. Dude, we're giving you the pre-show for free this week so that you can enjoy it and know how great it is to be a patron. Also, if you are a new patron or if you raise your patronage, then you have a chance to randomly be called out on a segment we like to call.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for... Wait, what's up, Jason?
What?
Are we not gonna give out the title of the album, or are we gonna do that after?
We're gonna do all this. It's all in the thing. Don't worry.
All right, one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Night Attack new Patreon name chant corner hour. It's an hour of it.
Man, look around. I see a lot of $5 pledges, a lot of $10 pledges. All that makes me super, super proud. But I want to tip my hat to somebody who finally upped their pledge to $1. And it's not the $1 that excites me. It's the fact that they've been pledging for so long that their original pledge, what do you think their original pledge was?
5 cents.
1 penny. Before
God damn, gave him 5 times more credit than he fucking deserved.
Before even the 5 cent nickel was an option, the minimum option. So I just want to say thank you, Steven Ray.
Steven Ray.
Yeah, man, I don't know what you're doing. You're probably rocking out on your guitar, pretending to be a statue in South Austin, Steven Ray.
Steven Ray.
Your brother, Vince Vaughn? I don't know. I got nothing. Thank you, Steven Ray.
Is Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother Vince Vaughn?
No. I was just trying to think of someone who was not one of the Vaughns.
Do you know that he's not?
I don't not know that he's not.
All right. Then we prove it in this 9-part podcast.
And it's done. No, thank you guys so much. Your patronage makes amazing things possible. Let's say we spend 1 minute talking about we got a full minute. All we have to do is get to the part where we explain the name of the album so everybody knows what to buy on January 22nd. And go.
God. So Blue Front's watching the Bizarre Briefing.
Oh, what a Vile 82 thing for you to say. Why would you say that?
Well, because on the Bizarre Briefing, Mitsula is his favorite show. He likes to watch Bryce and Brandt and all the other folks who work with Bizarre Magic as they discuss the business end of things.
That's right. Behind the scenes podcast.
Now, I don't want to get all Ace Hastley here, but it's a moderately popular program among our fan pool. For example,
it is technically award-winning.
That's right. Handu Tadpool would agree, as well as Gambling Man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be a gambling man about all this, but I would bet W. Scottus one's life that if you wanted to keep something secret, you wouldn't repeat it on the Bizarre Briefing.
Yeah, dude, you would be a stoic squirrel about it, and just maybe keep your ICU _ shut.
You know, otherwise you're going to Jay Pinkerton this whole thing and give away not only the title of the album, but also the album art that we were going to tease for next week.
Well, luckily none of that happens. JKing 206, it totally happens.
So, okay.
Explain yourself!
Every metric that I have tells me that no one listens to the Bizarre Briefing.
Yet we're here.
And yet we're here. So we were doing the Bizarre Briefing. That is a monthly behind-the-scenes show. So the next time we would do an episode would be after all of this stuff was out. So I knew, hey, I got ahead. I know I told the guys I wouldn't be able to have all the things done today, but I had just enough time to put a little thing together. And so I said, well, no one listens anyway. This episode's not even going to come out for like 2 weeks anyway. The chat was like dead. And so I thought, well, look, I'm going to talk about it. I explained a little bit about how I made the album art and the titles printed on it. And so I thought, well, let people know that they could pre-order I'm promoting the album. I'm promoting the album.
Oh, I'm sorry. It sounds like I'm hearing "You're welcome" from the other side of the room.
Well, then let's everybody please thank. Well, you want to know what, Bryce? I'm sure you did it in a tasteful way. And left a little something to the imagination. Can we get the clip?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, do we have the clip?
We do have a clip. Let's throw to the clip. Here we go.
Look, Brian, I trust Bryce. I'll bet you he danced around it and he maybe made some subtle, tasteful hints. He didn't just give the whole fucking goose away. I trust my boy Bryce. Let's take a look at the clip.
Toni B Leaky. Here we go.
The album art for All's Well, a Night Attack album. This is actually based off of a photo that Steven sent to me.
Okay. I did not know. How long and how much have we been secretly getting paid by NPR to do the Bizarre Briefing? Like
for at least 3 years. Listen.
By the way, I love that he's getting roasted for this, not only in the pre-show but also on the show itself, and he gets zero reaction from his co-host on the
nothing. That's why I thought, oh, the runway is cleared. There's nothing in the sky. I could just send this bird out and it'll be none the wiser. And then the Bizarre Briefing, when it comes out in like 18 days, will have actual information about this thing that's about to happen.
So I'm doing my stream and I'm like playing coy and I'm like, oh, like, don't worry, boys. The new album title's coming this tonight on Night Attack. New live Night Attack. I'm on Frog Pants. I'm on the morning stream. Hey, the album reveal. I'm tweeting. Bryce is retweeting my tweets about come here for the album title reveal. Sure. And then everybody in my chat's like, oh, you mean All's Well? Yeah, All's Well, a Night Attack album. All's Well, a Night Attack album.
Someone leaked. Who leaked? I want to know who the leak was.
Man in the mirror. I'm looking to leak the fucking title for the album that's coming out on January 22nd.
We were 6 hours away. Who cares? How is this a thing? If you,
Bizarre Things Considered. That's what we'll call it from now on.
That's a good thing. That is a good name for that.
All right, so there it is. The name of the album is All's Well. That is the title. That is the album art. I feel it's imperative that we do some kind of vinyl.
Yeah, it's like
so
super special edition, limited, like ridiculous, like only 20 of them ever get made. You're gonna have to kick in $100 a pop to do it or whatever. Like it looks like a classic rock album.
It looks
awesome.
And if you want to find out how I made it, you can listen to the Bizarre Briefing, bizarrebriefing.com.
Dude, I'm so excited, guys. I'm so excited.
What's the date again?
Brian? 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, January 22nd. The album's called All's Well, a Night Attack album. Just look for Night Attack, Brian Brushwood, Justin Robert Young. Dude, so excited.
We're going to try to have the pre-order up ASAP, but stuff has to happen before then.
But here's the deal. You guys need to get on your $5 patron stuff. Get us your feedback. We need your feedback. If you're at $10, we have a place for you to leave feedback on the album there. You got to do it now, though, because we are wrapping all decision-making on this album at the end of this week. We got to get it into the pipeline, but we want your opinion on it. We do nothing in this community without your point of view registered. So please go right now, patreon.com/Night Attack.
Yeah. Also, we'll talk about this more as we get closer to go time, but like we're gonna have it as affordably priced as possible on as many platforms as possible, in the hopes that maybe you have an Apple device and an Amazon device, and maybe your relatives have multiple devices, and maybe you'd rather buy the album 10 times on each platform than pay for it once at a traditional comedy album price.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is all about getting this thing to number one. That's the goal. It's definitely a shorter album. It's something that I think we might be able to press into other formats, but everything is all about January 22nd. And I can announce now the entire second hour of the morning stream that day will be a quad laser of Brian and I and Scott and Brian on the morning stream. We are probably going to be on other shows that day too, but there's going to be a full day of streaming in promotion for All's Well, a Night Attack album dropping on January 22nd.
Yeah. Also, if there's any place that you think you could get us booked, that would be a value. Hit us up, mail@nightattack.tv.
Yeah, we're doing any and everything.
So. Shall we bring on a guest?
I think we should.
I mean, if we're going to just bring on a guest, seems like it should be like a super rad guest, like a good friend of the show, somebody who we deeply respect and admire, somebody who is fun, funny, insightful, charismatic. And you know what? Just to fuck everything up, somebody who's also into magic, because that eliminates most of the things I said up until that last part.
There we go. Brian, you've carved a slice so thin, literally nobody could do that. Nobody who does magic is those other things.
Aha! Gotcha. You fell for my lawyer's trap. My name's Perry Mason, and I just fist fucked you. That was his famous catchphrase.
Oh my God.
That's what I have on this mug.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us live on the air is Max Temkin, co-creator of Cards Against Humanity, magician extraordinaire. Max, thank you so much for joining us, man. Uh-oh. And he's muted. Aha! Fist fucked you again. It's me.
Did this do anything?
Oh, nope. Yep. You're back.
Yeah.
There we go. Hi.
Hey.
Glad to be here.
Dude,
Great to see you, Max.
we didn't end up we did talk about the event on the Abracababble podcast, but we didn't talk about it on Night Attack. But I went up and did the show at Randy Pitchford. What is he? CEO, president, owner, arch lord of Gearbox Studios. Impresario, yes. And it was one of those things where it's like Rudy Kobe invited me to go do it, and I knew the answer was yes, but I didn't know why the answer was yes until I got there, and it was such a surprise and delight to turn around after you and I had started swapping emails again, just chit-chatting. So what brought you to that event?
So I am. So as you know, I've gotten into magic maybe in the last year or so because I started hanging out with Jordan Gold, who's one of the magicians who is at the show, who works with Randy. And I was at Gen Con doing some board game stuff, and Jordan was working with. Do you guys know the game Exploding Kittens?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan's like the official magician for Exploding Kittens, and he helped make this magical convention booth. They did the Exploding Kittens vending machine, and we were going out for drinks, and Alon from Exploding Kittens texts me, and he goes, "Can I bring my magician?" And I was like, "Is this a bit?" And he was like, "No, we have our magician here." And I was like, "Okay." And Jordan came with, and he was hanging out. And at some point, Alon, pimped him out to do some magic tricks. He's like, Jordan, you got to do some magic tricks for Max. And Jordan was like, have you ever seen a magic trick with a rubber band? And I hadn't seen a magic trick with a rubber band. And so Jordan takes a little baggie of rubber bands, or pulls them out of his pocket, puts them on the table, and proceeds to just destroy me for about 30 minutes with 6 rubber bands. And it was like one of the craziest experiences of my entire life, and something just broke in my brain, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is my new thing. So that's been the last year of my life, has been getting back into magic since I don't know, maybe I was like 13 years old.
I guess that was going to be my question. Is what was there the childhood infatuation, as there is so often with boys of a certain age?
Oh yeah, I was very into magic when I was growing up, and then I think I got interested in girls, and I stopped caring about magic. And now I'm like 31, so I'm not interested in girls anymore, and I'm just interested in magic. So it works out really well.
I would like to point out, Bryce briefly put up on the screen, we had tweeted out this one backstage photo before the big show. A number of people pointed out that you and I, Max, are the most normal people in this crowd shot.
Oh, that's total, Magicians Alliance from Arrested Development.
Yes!
Like
we demand to be taken seriously. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you have that photo. I mean, that's a scene there. I'll say though, magicians are fun to hang out with. Like, I run in some weird crowds. Like, I'm sure you guys do too, because once you get into this sort of like, podcasting and games and all this stuff, like, there's just a bunch of weird people who do this, and there's some really interesting characters, but it's got nothing on magic. I mean, magic is the weirdest, most interesting people.
Well, because I would say that if I was going to speculate, I would say each magician figures out how weird they are and then throw themselves in the rock tumbler of life that is touring on the road to hone just how not like everyone else they are, and polish it to a chrome-like finish so that they can be not normal to the ultimate best of their ability at all times.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you've got to be smart to do magic, because there's a lot. Oh my God, like when you're, especially like when you're on stage, like there's just so much shit in your head, let alone like that you have to be entertaining and like funny and be good to watch, but like just mechanically there's just like so much stuff that you're trying to hold straight in your head. So I think it's like smart people, but then also like it's like smart people who this is what they've decided to do, which is like tricks, just like tricking people, like an imp from a fairy tale. Like, it's such what a weird thing to do with your life.
and I think you've kind of identified that there are, and Brian and I talk a lot about this, that there is this fork in the road with magic, where it either becomes about the act, and now it's a part of art, and you're thinking about theatrics and what you want the audience to think, or there's no, my act is I'm better than you, and I know how to do a thing. And now it's going to be about the cold mechanics of, gotcha. Turns out I knew your number. Yet again. Fuck you.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because coming back into magic now as an adult, and going through this journey of I don't know, you get, what is it like when you get older? You like learn what a scene is, right? And you're like, oh, I get it. There's like the cool people, and there's this clique, and this is how it's changing, and whatever. And it's interesting coming back into magic with like adult eyes, because just like everything else in life, I think about 90% of it sucks. I'm looking at the chat because I hate my life here, and someone let's see, it's like BioCow says my wife said women don't like magic because they don't like being lied to, and I think that's totally it, right? Like, magicians are sociopaths. Like, they're like do these like jokes from joke books, and they abuse. There's this whole idea of like audience manipulation and controlling the audience that sounds a lot like kind of pickup artist bullshit, and there is that streak of it, and it sucks. And but also like what's cool now is people are connected on the internet, so there's this what Brian, I don't know what you call it, but there's this like the outsiders, or like the indie people or whatever, who are they're interested in expression and new ideas and the art of it, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's
that picture right there is I would call it the good ones. Like, having covered magic for a very long time, there's a reason why I would count three very good friends, in Dan Sperry, Rudy Kobe, and Brian, as they care about their art, they care about the theatrics, they care about their audience, they want to make their audience feel good, and man, is it all too fucking rare in that field.
Well, and so to that point of sort of like the archetype of the magician, certainly when you say magician just out of context, people conjure a specific image, and it is shockingly close to the pickup artist scene, because I think the pickup artist scene was modeled on magic, where it's like, oh wait, there exists an art form where nothing is written in and of the moment. Everything is pre-written as a series of branching events, and then you begin with a seed event and you follow it, and no matter what somebody does, you have a pre-planned next level to go. That is highly attractive.
Pickup artists are so cool. It's so great and cool that they run the country now. They're like, their best ideas are like, wear a colored hat so that girls pay attention to you. Like, what fucking idiots! I can't stand these people. And the same thing is true in magic too. People literally say the same things. They're like, wear colorful clothing. It's like, wear ruffles so people don't notice what you're doing. It's like, what kind of a person are you? Like, what kind of a way is this to relate to the world?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna need to change my pants. Justin, can you cover for me? Because I'm enjoying this too much.
I just love that's the final, like, that's what they settled on. It's like, well, Jesus, how are we going to distract people? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe we could develop a whole art and patter, or, I mean, not Jesus. If we really wanted to think forward, we could be charismatic. We could connect with people on a level that would make them feel dialed into us and not looking at our hands. No.
You know what's funny is a lot of magic tricks you do. A lot of magic tricks, you do something really amazing and impossible, and then you can't let people see it, right? Like you just put like a pen through a dollar bill, and any normal person who sees that is like, come on, let me see that pen. And then the whole trick is like, you have to like come up with some way for them not to see the pen. And there's like, if you go on like magic forums or whatever, there's all this way of like, people are like, oh, well, you're not like dominating your audience enough if they want to see your shit. And it's like, no, if they don't want to see your shit after you do something amazing, you bored them. You just made it so boring that they don't care and they don't want to see it.
You told a bad story.
It's crazy to me that's like dogma in magic, that like you can trick people into not wanting to see your props after you do something impossible with them.
Or essentially bully them as well. And that was the weird thing. Before YouTube and before magic forums, before boots on the ground reporting live at Twitter and all that stuff, the only thing you had was the principal character's recollection of how the thing went and how much they slayed them and what they said and how somebody tried to grab the pen, but then he said, your mom has 12 tentacle dicks, fuck you. And then, serve them, got it. And so as a result, only now in the entire history of magic do I feel like in the last decade are we getting an accurate representation of what the audience is actually feeling when they watch most magicians perform.
Well, and it's I mean, the other thing is obviously like it's a very different context than like vaudeville, because people have a lot of options for entertainment. So if you're going to make it as a magician, you better figure something out to entertain people and make them want to watch you. Like you can't just do the same jokes and the same tricks that you buy in a magic shop as everyone else. I mean, I don't think that's going to fly now.
This is a truly special moment for me, because both two people I respect very, very deeply, you and Justin Robert Young, came to magic completely as outsiders and saw the magic community, the magic scene, exactly for what it is. And all I want to do is parse and understand the similarities of your experiences and what you discovered when.
Yeah, you know, it sounds like we're pretty well aligned in terms of the initial idea. There is that when you first begin, and so I started covering the magic industry. Jesus, I mean, close to 10 years ago now, and it was from the outside. I didn't really have a childhood fascination with magic aside from maybe farting around with a coin trick once. But you get in and you're like, okay, well, this takes a lot of skill. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like then there's a lot of just total hackery. And then there is this very weird, very toxic, preventative, secretive kind of culture. Not in the cool secrets of like, no, don't worry. Like when you are ready to handle this secret, that's when we will bestow it upon you. But like literally pretending that as if you built Legos and then you denied the fact that a Lego brick existed, like just the initial building block of concepts would be viciously kept to the point where stupid initials would be used in forums, as if, you know, the hordes would break in and be like, oh, you're talking about a thumb tip, not a TT.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa. We don't use the TT word around here, sir. Nobody knows about that.
Yeah, like another example I like is like, you know, when I started, I don't know, it's like, what do you do if you want to learn magic now? Like I went on YouTube and I got some books, and it's like you find one guy that you like, and like I kind of knew Brian's work, so Brian was a good, like I got Brian's Penguin Live lecture, and then I could find the stuff that he talked about, and that set me on a path. So that's how I went about it. And it's interesting because like you really quickly get into this YouTube rabbit hole of like, I'll give one example of like, there's this move in Magic that's kind of hard to do that people argue about a lot called the pass. And the pass is a way to put a card where you want it in the deck, and people can spend their whole life like getting really good at this. And I spent like a year like watching YouTube videos and practicing different kinds of passes and playing with it. And then after about the first year of like getting into Magic and starting to perform for people, I realized like the actual secret that nobody will tell you when you're like on Magic YouTube is you just don't do a pass. Like there's like 50 better ways to do it. You just do like a double undercut, or just do it when they're not looking. Like there's so many better options than doing a pass, but you wouldn't know that from reading the 10,000 or, you know, I give another example. Like, have you guys ever gone on a camera forum to like buy a camera?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it crazy the stuff that people obsess about that's not like making good movies or taking good pictures?
Well, yeah, it's like numbers and divisions and 6 minutes more of battery life and whatnot.
Yeah, that lens sucks. Like, you could never take a fucking photo with that lens. Like, just getting into Flame Wars, it's like, why?
I actually had a similar thing where I wanted to buy. I have a 13-year-old little stepbrother, and so I wanted to buy him a laptop he could play Fortnite on. That was going to be my Christmas present to him. And so I'm just going through these forums, and I'm trying to find just like, all right, hey, look, money's a little bit of an issue, so just like a good price tag laptop that you can play Fortnite. And oh my God, just the forums of just every little thing, and like, oh well, fucking don't buy it on Walmart, or don't do it here. It's like, just this should not be a hard thing. Here are the specs for Fortnite. Here's what I need in a laptop. And I just would like some sheen of people who know what to do. I could buy a random thing, but I guess you guys are too busy trying to determine how many angels could dance on the head of a pin to give me some fucking real advice.
So, okay, so as you dive in, how far along, for both of us to end up working at the Randy Pitchford gig, again, my favorite surprise of 2018, how long into it had you gotten, and when, tell me about your discovery of what your voice is, and how you figured out what you wanted to do with Magic, and how, where you see stuff going, because I got to admit, it's a great story that the Cards Against Humanity dude is doing Magic, and to take a brand that is, would it be unfair to say that is sort of highly refined cynicism to a certain degree, and to put it with an art that is often associated with starry-eyed optimism. You think of your Doug Hennings and so on. That seems like an interesting fusion and a lot of opportunity to grow into something there.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Cards is interesting because it's not my voice. I mean, necessarily, like I can write in that voice. It's a fun character to slip into, but I think we talk about the Cards Against Humanity voice a little bit like the Colbert Report. So Cards has a character that we do, and when we write emails from Cards, or when we write the game or something like that, or the weird pranks and things that we do, those are sort of in the character of Cards Against Humanity. But when we do customer service emails, like when someone orders something from us and it's damaged, like they don't want some sort of like shit-eating reply, or they don't want it to be clever. So we try to be like genuinely decent people, and that's
I'm surprised.
That's more of where my work is.
I'm surprised to hear you use the word pranks, because I've always regarded what you guys are doing as performance art, but I don't know that performance art is any better than the word pranks.
Sure. I mean, they're both like pranks is like, I think has been kind of ruined by like the YouTube pranks or whatever, where you like run, what is that? You go into a mall and you like slap women's asses and you're like, oh, it's a prank. more of more of the pickup artist scene. I think.
Yeah.
But, I don't. Yeah, but performance art sounds pretentious for what we're doing, so I don't know what to call it. I mean, now looking back on it, I think that there is some magical design and magical elements to it. Maybe not like a super traditional magic trick, but there is it's part improv, part magic. There's that you might have told me this, Brian, but there's that quote that I think was it like Penn Jillette said that the secret to every magic trick is that the magician is working way harder on something than possibly anticipate.
The quote that many magicians quote is Jim Steinmeier, who said magicians are guarding an empty vault. That it's the mere acting like what's on the inside is valuable is what makes it valuable.
Yeah, well, and that's I think that's true of a lot of the stuff that we do that people like is like the secret of it is like you would not believe, like it might seem like some random dumb thing that we're doing, but like you would not believe the like logistics, like in some cases years of like planning and logistics and the team and the moving shit around the country and building web software. Like it's a lot goes into that stuff.
How long did this last one take?
Oh, is this the 99% off sale?
Yeah, we should fill people in. Justin, you want to tell everyone what it looked like from the outsider's view?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it was brilliant. It was it once every hour there was a item that went up for sale, and it was legit 99% off. And sometimes it was a lot of things that you would imagine, wouldn't be worth much but there was 99% off, and sometimes or 99% off. Sometimes it was $100 that was 99% off, and sometimes it was big, gigantic, crazy things that were sold at gigantic discounts. But it was yet again one of those Cards Against Humanity stunts that sort of dominated Black Friday.
Man, the one that really floored me was the Picasso print. Like that was. Can you share any of the details? I guess also Bill Pullman's actual flight suit from Independence Day.
Yeah, My favorite was Dan Aykroyd's actual Conehead from the movie Coneheads.
Oh wow,
that was disgusting. That actually was repulsive in real life. It was like this flaking makeup appliance that was 20 years old. Very upsetting.
Well, and so how much of the behind the scenes stuff can you share about how that idea came to be? And it sounded like you, especially to look at your Twitter feed, it looked like you were a very proud papa of what was happening on that day.
Yeah, that was a weird one because we saw it came to us like we had this idea of doing some sort of sale or something. And it kind of morphed, and we turned it around in our heads for like maybe 6 months or something, and then we kind of had the idea to do the crazy discounts on something, and a lot of the details come about in execution. So like we were coming up with something, and we were like, well, why is there only we're only want to do one of everything, so why is there only one? So we're like, and then we sort of realize it's sort of like writing something, right? Like you discover it in the writing of it, and so a lot of it we were like, oh, I get it. Like, there's only one because we're gonna do like things that there only exists one of them, like Dan Aykroyd's Conehead, right? Like those were the funniest ones. So, or just like dumb, like the dumbest, most ostentatious like things we could find on the internet. I don't know that one. I wish there was like a better story of how we came up with that one. I know like man, some of our previous ones, like the year before we launched this like fake chip brand Prongles, we somehow got it into every Target. For like on Black Friday, and then we got in trouble with Pringles, and we had to take it down. And I guess saw that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that was legit. Like Pringles came after you.
Yeah. This was came about where years ago when Cards Against Humanity went into Target. Target wanted us to make like an exclusive pack of cards for them, and so we didn't. We're like, man, that kind of sucks, like having to write stuff for Target. So we were like, well, we're gonna make fun of Target in the packs. We just go to Target with like a legal pad. There's like 8 of us who make the game. We write the game together. So we went to Target and we went walking around and wrote down all the funny stuff there. And we came up with. I mean, it was a pretty funny pack that like savaged Target so badly that they wound up like not reordering it and taking it off the
But again, like I can't think of anything more on brand than to fuck with money. Like it's so
Well, we were
punk rock.
contractually required to make this thing for them, and they were contractually required to buy it. And so I'm glad that we made it so offensive that they actually wouldn't put it out, that we got Target so badly. But I don't know, we started writing jokes about Pringles. We had like so many jokes. We had like a Pringles can that screams when you open it. We had just like a Pringle, which is very funny. And we came up with, in the writing of that, we came up with the idea of like an off-brand Pringles called Prongles, and how funny that would be. And then it's one of those things of like, well, it's the same as what you guys do. We're bullshitting, we're making each other laugh, and then at some point someone's like, no, we should actually do that. And then we're like, yes, we should actually do that. So we called Target, and we were like, if we made something called Prongles, would you sell it? And they were like, yeah, sure, why not? And we were like, really? And they were like, yeah. So we called our lawyers, and we were like, we want to make a knockoff Pringles and call it Prongles. And they were like, please don't do that. And we were like, well, we really want to do it. We think it would be really funny, so could you find a way for us to do it? And what our lawyers found out was we would give Pringles advance notice, but we would tell them the day before, which the day before Black Friday is Thanksgiving.
Sure.
So we notified the who is it? It's Kraft. We notified the Kraft Foods legal department on Thanksgiving, and we were like, hey, here's the deal. We're doing this. Like, please don't sue us. It's just a joke. And that we heard back from them pretty promptly on Black Friday, and they didn't think it was as funny as we did. So a short-lived prank. But I am proud to say that we did roll out Prongles to every Target nationally, and made that whole crazy chip brand. So that was our one for last year.
Just imagine the wife of the executive that got called in to handle that on Thanksgiving. So mad.
You know what's funny was that was in 2017, and we had been doing a bunch of anti sort of Trump stuff, and we had done something for the election. And when the Kraft people called us, they were like, we don't want you to go after us, to go after Pringles like you're going after Trump. And we were like, wait a minute, like why why would we go after Pringles like we've gone after Trump? Like that's
I would love to believe it's
like, what do you guys have, some bodies in the closet? Like what's going on there?
I would love to believe it's just a completely misplaced sense of evil. It's just like, we know we're as evil as Trump. Yeah. Don't come after us the same way.
Yes, Pringles have some children in a prison somewhere that we don't know about. What's going on?
So okay, so coming to magic as an outsider, you begin at YouTube, and that's one of the things that, man, oh man, we're in the middle of doing this rebranding of the Scam School channel to Scam Nation, and a huge part of it, we just shot a video today explaining how it's like there needs to be a place for more advanced tutorials. Nobody's filling this void. Like, nobody's going to the library, and every magician over 30 is pretending like that's still an option. And I don't understand this willful ignorance. And you and I talked a bit about at this event, my quixotic attempt to try to step into that void. I just want to hear so much about what it's like to be an adult, a socially adroit, a clever satirist, and to step into the world of magic. What you appreciate and what you don't appreciate with fresh eyes.
Well, I think one thing is a big difference I can say is, like, when I was 13 and I would go to the magic store with my dad, I would get a gimmick and you'd take it home and you would watch the video and or read the thing, and you would do it. At least I would, to the extent that I performed it at all, I would do it as it was written, right? So they would have little jokes in there, and you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Sure. You would begin with the phrase, "In my travels to India."
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen the Indian rope trick? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. And, now I think I at least have grown in the way that, like, I will buy a trick. Well, that's the other thing with magic is, like, boy, I like hobbies where there's lots of stuff to buy. And man, does magic take the cake there. There is just a lot of...
There's only one thing I've encountered.
There's just a lot of bullshit to buy in magic, as you can
second
see from my little
second
book
only to triathlons. That's it's triathlons number 1, magic number 2.
But yeah, I think a lot of the fun for me is, like, I'll buy a gimmick and I'll learn it and I'll see what they are doing with it, and it's usually so lame, like it's so embarrassing, like watching the performance on the DVD that you get with a gimmick or with a trick or whatever, and then I just and then it's sort of fun because then you get to sit here and you're like, or like, so I got a trick the other day that I think is really aesthetically is really beautiful, where you take you borrow a dollar bill, someone signs it, you put the dollar bill in your hand, and then it sort of begins to animate in your hand, and it folds itself into a butterfly, and it kind of flaps its wings in your hand, and then you can make it fly. And that's like so up my alley. Like, it's really beautiful. Like, you don't need to say a lot. The presentation in the DVD, it's like, it would be so much, it's like better with the sound off. Like, you know that thing of like only speak if you're improving on the silence? Like, magicians never do that. They're never improving on the silence. They like completely ruin this beautiful trick by saying a bunch of dumb jokes through it and you know, just not shutting their mouths. So now I've got this thing, and I brought it to work the other day, and I turned a dollar bill into a butterfly, and I've kind of got it working, and I have my angles, and I kind of know how to perform it. And now I'm having a lot of fun of thinking about, like, what does that mean? Like, what can I do with it? Like, what's the story that I can tell with it? Or like, or the other thing I think, because I'm almost only an amateur magician, like I don't aspire to do magic on stage or do it professionally. I really only like doing magic in the bar for my friends and things like that. So I'm also thinking of like, what's the right context to deploy this? Like, where can I be with people where someone's going to have a dollar and I can be like, hey, let me see that thing, and fold it into a butterfly, and it would blow people's minds. Like, they'd be like, what the fuck is going on right now? And then, you know, you give it back to them or put it in your pocket, and you're done, and you move on with your day. It's not a segue into a 20-minute magic show or something.
Yeah, man. So the well, now all I want to do is see this trick, but we'll have to save that for another time. Dude, Justin, I'm terribly afraid that I just want to hog the conversation and geek out and magic stuff.
Go.
Okay, so how did you end up at the Randy Pitchford gig? Because we had Rudy Kobe there, Carissa Hendricks.
Yeah, so Jordan Gold works with Randy. They're kind of collaborate on all kinds of crazy stuff, and he's just they're friends. And Jordan has been telling me for a while, you know, yeah, you got to come out to Randy's and see the Peacock, because like Randy also shares my affinity for like gizmos and things like that. So a lot of times I'll email Jordan and I'll be like, what about this like crazy gizmo? And he'll be like, the only person I know who has that is Randy's. So you got to come see it at Randy's. And
by the way, the Peacock, to the uninitiated, which was me last month, is the Peacock Theater. In their house in suburban Frisco, they have built a quality theater with lighting and tech and sound gear as good as almost certainly better than the world famous Magic Castle in Los Angeles, California. Like it's amazing what he's done, and it's clear that Randy loves and gets what it takes to put on a show. He loves running the tech for that stuff, and he gets the timing down. And at some point, it's fun to watch him kind of flip into director mode, where he's like, no, let's run it 3 more times. Let's make sure we get the timing down so we're able to get that punch and then go on to the next thing. I just adored watching all of that come together.
Yeah, it was a surreal. I mean, I felt like that whole trip was like a fever dream. Like, I was like, there were so many things in Randy's house and that theater, the whole existence of that theater, all the people who showed up to that, where I was just rubbing my eyes and I was like, is this actually happening? Am I like tripping out right now? Like, it was a deeply weird weekend. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but it was very, very strange. But yeah, so I also just know Randy through the video game world, and I didn't really know that he had this whole other identity in magic. And so Randy he was like, you know, I was like, oh, you know, I'd love to come see the theater sometime. And he was like, no, you got to come for the show. It's going to be really crazy. And I'm glad I did. It was very strange and cool.
How do you like the difference from the largely thought of as introverted experience of writing, you know, even the biting satire of either the performance art or of the actual cards for Cards Against Humanity is, I believe, or to my eyes, very different from the in-the-moment white-hot fire of the extroverted experience of knowing that you have to break your brain in half and somehow figure out a way to do a one-handed top palm and justify the crossover move while you're doing other stuff. Like, that seems like a dramatically different set of skills from what you've been doing up until this point. Has that been a difficult bridge for you to cross?
Yeah, so I have I mean, you know, I one of my first interests was in comedy, and in Chicago, comedy is all about improv. You know, the comedy improv sort of started in Chicago, and it's still the home of improv is still in Chicago. So we have the biggest improv scene and the best people, the best teachers, the best theater. So it's just like one of my great loves in life. And I see a ton of improv. We have a monthly sort of Cards Against Humanity like comedy show. We actually have a comedy theater in our office. So like kind of like Randy built that crazy theater. We just built the same. We did the same thing, but for more like independent comedy stuff. So I'm pretty comfortable on stage. Like I'm kind of somewhat knowledgeable of like talking to an audience and vamping and things like that. In fact, like when I do perform and when I do magic, like even I think you saw one of my like little close-up sets at Randy's. Like I've never written any of that stuff out. Like I see all these magicians who talk about how important it is to write everything, and it's an exercise I do want to go through at some point. But for now, I just sort of wing it, and I hope I figure it out. And it's the most similar to improv to me. And much like there's a lot of bad improv, right? 90% of sorry if I'm talking over you guys.
No. You're
go ahead.
It's like 90% of improv is bad, and most people who have seen improv or they see it once, like, oh, it sucked. Those guys were, it made me feel awkward seeing it, and I didn't like it. And that's fair. Not all, most improv is mediocre. When it's great, it's a fucking miracle. It's the highest. I think it's the highest form of comedy that there is. But I think like one of the biggest skills in improv, it seems like when you look at improv, what you see is people doing stuff. They're moving, they're jumping on stage, they're doing pantomime, they're talking to each other, they're doing callbacks. You see people doing stuff. But the biggest skill in improv and the hardest thing to learn is that most of it is not doing anything. Most of it is listening. It's being aware of where everyone is on stage, what they're saying, what their character is. You have to know, do they have a name already? Where are you? What's your relationship? A character comes into a scene. What do they need? What do they want right now? And if someone else comes in and hasn't done that, there's this idea in improv of giving someone a gift. So, if you guys have come into a scene and you're talking to each other and it's floundering and you haven't established the location or, whatever, maybe I'll come on stage and be like, I'd like to place an order. And now it's a gift to you guys, right? Because it establishes we're at a restaurant, you work at the restaurant, like I come in and I need something. It adds like a element of drama to the scene. So lots of those ideas to me come into the good kind of magic performance of being generous, like actually listening when people like Brian, how many magic performances have you seen where magicians ask questions to the audience member and don't listen to what they say?
Oh, all of them, 100%. I mean, it's like they have a track, and most magicians, what they learn to do is bully people back onto the track rather than adopt the flexibility. And I think that improv and magic. And we're learning a lot about this from our friend Matt Donnelly, who is a trained improv pro who is learning magic. I think there's something to the idea of telling one story while the other part of your brain is doing a lot of very important work unrelated to the words that are coming out of your mouth. That ability, Patrick Rothfuss in his book Name of the Wind refers to magicians as breaking their mind in two and giving different jobs to different parts. And I think that's a big part of both the improv engine and in magic. And also similar to both is the fact that a limitation is a gift in both cases, where it's like whatever I say, I know that I need to push the story forward by introducing a new element in the next sentence or two. Whatever I say, I know I need to justify leaning over and grabbing this object over here, and it can't just be a hey, look over there, let me grab it. That's bad improv, bad magic.
Well, the audience is saying yes and, which is one of the other big ideas for improv. And like improv, it's not, rules are made to be broken. And I see lots of improv that where people don't yes and everything. But yes and is this principle of improv of maybe I come in and I think we're in a restaurant and you guys take it in a different direction. I'm not going to start an argument and be like, no, we're in a restaurant. Like whatever anyone says goes. Like that's the reality that's being created on the stage. I think this is a very powerful idea in magic. A lot of times when you're showing a trick to someone, you'll be like, I don't know, you'll ask them a question of like, what do you think is in your hand? And you want them to say, I think I have a card, but instead they come up with something else. And then you'll go, no, what you have is the thing I want you to say. Listen, they're engaged. Like they're thinking about it. They just said something. They're giving you a gift. Fucking run with it. That's so annoying to me that magicians step on that when people at the height of the moment when people care about what they're doing and they're invested in it. When people ask questions, when people see something, that's the other thing is like I very quickly learned if you do a good trick, people are going to immediately say, how do you do that? And if you go on magic forums, you guys could probably say off the top of your head all of the dumb shit-for-brains answers the magicians say.
Very well, thank you. That's how I did it.
They say, oh, can you keep a secret?
So can I.
Me too, yeah. Or you deflect and you go, oh, let's lots of practice. I just practice alone, in my basement.
And meanwhile, and this is something that I've tried to spread the gospel of on Scam School, now Scam Nation, is do the salesman's trick of answering a question with a question. Somebody says, how do you do that? And then you respond with, did you like that? What are they going to do? Say no? It's like, yes, I did. Would you like to see another? Yes, I would. And now you're on to another thing. It's not rocket science.
Oh, I wouldn't. Fuck
so
off.
Check this shit out. How many tricks do you know where it happens in the spectator's hands?
A fair bit, 20%.
Yeah, like spectator cuts the aces, like any sort of like poker deal where you can take the Jonah card, so they'll win. Anything like that. Just when someone asks how it works, just do that. Just do something where they do it.
Sure. Or and again, you're just
like
answering.
It's like the number one thing that I've learned about like that's the only thing that I figured out about magic so far that I feel very confident is when you better have a trick where when someone says when you show someone something cool and they say how did you do that, you better have some shit that where you can do it right then with whatever's around where it happens in their hands and then you go, that's how it works. You just did it.
And you want to know what's awesome about what you just said is, number one, you're totally right. And number two, this is literally the problem with the entire industry, is that there's not people thinking, let alone thinking in a public forum where, God forbid, there could be a conversation about the art and you could move it forward. Instead, any conversation is had privately, and all conversation is stifled by the deans of the world that are like, nah, I mean, I don't know, seems complicated. Why don't you just say I keep a secret? Anyway, moving on. I had a broken TT the other day.
or specifically, they intimate where it's like, well, if they're asking that, then clearly you're doing it wrong, which of course is not helpful and doesn't get anyone anywhere. I think when people press on the how did you do that thing, nothing short circuits that as fast as, do you want to learn a trick that you could pull on your friends? Like when you get conspiratorial with them, when you say, would you like a little bit of the force that you can, so that you can impress your friends? Boom, suddenly they're on your side and you've converted them. But again, there's that fear. And I don't know. I would love to trace the lineage of when the whole idea of secret keeping magicians came about, because
so a couple of things about this. So the first thing is, in comedy, so I can't remember, I wish I could remember who said this, but someone told me one time that comedians are share in common a fear of being laughed at. A lot of them have stories of like they were bullied as kids, and so they picked up comedy as a way to control how people laughed at them and to participate in the jokes and things like that. And it's also why comedians tend to flip out if you make fun of them. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that before, but comedians tend to have very thin skin. And so being on stage and making people laugh is like a way of controlling people and controlling the laughter. And the same is very true of magicians. Like, whatever the way the magicians are broken, like, you're kind of in it to, like, look cool and impress people and make them think that you have special skills. I think that is the most acute in the sort of mentalism scene where you're like actually trying to convince people that you have these powers or whatever. But it's much more. That doesn't do anything for me. Like, I don't need anyone to. I'm not doing magic so people. I don't know. I think it's really fun to do magic. I am getting something out of it, but it's not that I want people to think that I'm cool and talented. It's that it's all the other feelings that come with it. And so for that reason, I think it's much cooler and more gracious to say, well, I don't know, it's just a thing that happens sometimes. Here, look, you can do it too. And then it just happens in their hands. And you're like, yeah, it's, I don't know, it just happens.
We both you and I, Max, and Justin Robert Young and I have had multiple conversations where you talk about the fact that magic is basically a chess game, and you've heard me say this before. The job of the magician is to be the best chess player in the village, and there's two schools of thoughts. One is, let me study all the games that came before me, let me understand all the book moves, let me understand the theory of how to be very, very good at chess. And then the other side says, yeah, but let me just make sure nobody in this village knows the rules of chess, and then I'll be the best chess player in the village, right? I feel like all of the frustrations that I hear from you about discovering the world of magic are really just the growing pains of an art that doesn't have enough practitioners. It's not an efficient market. It's not, and this is something else I'm sure I've talked about on the air at some point, the idea. Acting is an efficient market. Every failure that ends up serving coffee and talks about the one time they were in Dante's Peak subsidizes the success of the people at the very, very top of the field and elevates the art because of the number of people competing. Same thing with rock music. For every same thing, weirdly, with drug dealers. If there are so many if drug dealers are all rich and moneyed, how come so many are living with their parents? Because it's a tournament. And I love the art of magic enough that I want magic to be a very hard club to get into, where you can't buy your way in with about $1,000 at a magic shop, that you have to buy in with blood, sweat, and tears and getting in front of audiences and failing and getting experimental. And it seems like that's not the prominent view among magicians, as I've understood.
Well, there's a parallel, I think, of what I hope happens with man. A lot of people also decry right now, like there's like the YouTube sort of panic of like, oh, like if you see a trick, you can just go on Google and search for it and you can find it. And like, man, I saw a shitty magician the other day at this not with us, at a whole different thing, and he was on stage doing awful stage illusions, and he did like one of the worst things I think you can do as a magician, which is say the technical name of what you're doing in the trick. So he was like he had a trick where he just like riffle forced a bunch of cards on people, and he's on stage and he goes, I'm just gonna riffle through the deck and you say stop whenever you want. I'm like, dude, that's the one thing you don't do. Don't fucking say the word riffle so people can Google it later. Like that's actually the only fooling part of this whole trick. Like, it was such a lame act, but that stuff drives me crazy. But people they're in a panic because like when you go to magic talks or whatever, because they're like, oh, like magic's all gonna die because people are just one Google search away from finding it.
Which, by the way, has been the decrying since Google existed. Magic doesn't seem to have died. And yet that continues to be something that's out there. I mean, my theory with that has always been, hey, look, if you care enough that after you go see a magician and then you go get into your car and you drive away and you think about your bills and you think about your job and you think about your relationship, you then have the theory of mind to sit down and Google and then find the exact YouTube video in which it explains the trick that you've done. You are not a audience member ruining the art. You are a magician. Like, you are taking your first step to possibly doing some kind of magic. You have now you've wanted to build on that framework, and it's always blown my mind that people look at that as like, that as if you could just snap your fingers and all of a sudden in the vision in front of you it would show the trick, the reason why the trick happened, and that is the direct failure badge for the magician, that for some reason their success or failure exists beyond them on the internet, and that must be eradicated.
Yeah, it's what I would say is like people are correct that magic is changing, and I can see it changing really quickly, and that's fine. I mean, magic's not going to go away any more than like the music went away when the music industry changed, as a result of like digital distribution and piracy and things like that. There are a lot of people were worried when the record labels were going under. I heard a lot of takes of like, oh, music is dead and there's not going to be any more like original acts and no one's going to produce new music. And the opposite happened, right? This is the golden age of music. There's like more interesting music and just more music in general, and more people who can make music than at any time in human history. And you can discover music. Like, you can just go on Spotify and surf and like find all these bands and this cool shit out there. Music didn't go anywhere. I think it's probably the ceiling is lower, right? There's not going to be another like what was the best selling album of all time is like the Backstreet Boys, right?
No, it was Thriller, but and in fact, maybe you could Google food this. I believe while Justin, we were in Las Vegas. I remember the sorry, it was just before Las Vegas when I was up in doing the Randy Pitchford gig in Frisco. The Eagles just overtook Thriller with the
greatest
number
hits.
Yeah, can you believe that? Witchy Woman beating Pretty Young Thing.
Oh, there's no justice in the world. Well, at some point I heard maybe it was the biggest like debut CD or something like that was the Backstreet Boys. And it's
I think it was NSYNC or something like NSYNC had one of those big gaudy records that like
right and it's like and the idea is like there will never be a record that debuts bigger than that because their music isn't distributed in the same way. So the ceiling is lower. Like it's not as great to be on the top anymore. But to me that's actually like probably a positive sign. That's actually good. Like I would gladly trade away the top of Magic, the top earners of Magic, and the top level of celebrity for the width and the breadth of all these new people getting into it and getting to enjoy it.
Man, what a great way to put it. I couldn't agree more. It's a case, and again, I'm not a fan of being confrontational, but anyone who says no, fewer people need to know the fundamentals of Magic, like,
and go fuck themselves.
All I hear when I hear that is my fear for my position is greater than my affection for the art. And I humbly disagree. My affection for the art is so great that I would rather, my own, that I myself turned out to no longer be qualified to make it in the art of business if that elevated the art.
Yeah. That's well said. I mean, this happened in video games too in the last, I don't know what was like 15 years or something, right? Of like, there was this established order of big names in video games, and it all came down to like who could get shelf space at Best Buy to like distribute the CDs of their games. And then you got, XBLA and Steam and like direct downloads, and you suddenly, the width of video games greatly increased. Like all these people could make art games and indie games and make all this weird stuff, and then there was like a clique of these artists who were like, games can be more than like it can be more than these like six genres or tropes. Like you can do all this weird cool art with games, and that kind of led to like a scene, and that scene like challenged each other, and you had the one-upsmanship, and games is a more even hopeful example than music, because the ceiling has certainly not gone away for games, right? Like Fortnite is the biggest game of all time, I think.
Well, and think about what a crime Fortnite's success would look like in the Magic world. This would be the equivalent of like, no, I'm doing a totally different game because this uses a blue deck instead of a red deck, and then meanwhile it's like, no, you must banish the person who built upon the idea that I had 7 years ago and insufficiently credited it in the great tome of Magic hierarchy, and then meanwhile games do well because it's so easy for people to build on the idea of those who came before them.
You're talking about the idea of like Fortnite ripped off PUBG's like Battle Royale,
sure, or any number of things, there is a tolerance for derivative, maybe not derivative.
Iterative is maybe the better word.
What's iterative? That's right, iterative progression. That Magic has not demonstrated to this point, and I'm very hopeful that in a world where we are able to show that the Emperor has no clothes, where from day one, if you intend to entertain people with a Magic show, you have to acknowledge as you write the material that everybody has the answer to every question you're going to introduce in their pocket. Your job is to tell a good enough story that they don't ever get around to reaching for their pocket.
Yeah.
All right. And I don't know.
Glad I solved all that.
I would also just like for the bottom of the industry to just put effort in. Like, I think that's really the only thing that bothers me, is that whenever we get into these conversations about secrecy, it often seems to me to be protecting the guy that's doing the walk around act at Chili's on Tuesday, that like his entire act is blown up if you know the fact that card tricks exist and you can buy them on the internet. Like that's the threadbare thing that's keeping him being paid $50 a week, which God bless him. Hey, look, it's 2019. You got to earn a living somehow. But also it's like, if that's it, so if somebody, exposes a trick deck or teaches a trick deck on YouTube, you're fucked. You're done. It's over. That's your safety net.
I mean,
then maybe you don't deserve a safety net. Maybe you should be working again, an inch harder than a trick deck explanation on YouTube puts me out of work. Maybe just a little bit harder than that.
I want this rant tattooed upon my back. This is amazing.
Well, no, and also like I think that those people owe something to the Magic community as well. I mean, it needs to be a two-way street, right? If they feel that they're owed the protection of those secrets that let them make their $50 a week at Chili's, which is a fair request, then to me they owe the rest of the Magic community not sucking, doing what they can to not blow ass. Because how many times do you talk about Magic with someone, or someone sees you doing a trick and they're like, "Oh, I saw a card trick once and it sucked and it was embarrassing," right? It's like, well, that's unfortunate that most, it is true that most people have only seen live Magic, real, in front of their face live Magic, maybe once or twice in their life, and more likely than not, it probably sucked.
And
almost certainly. Almost like that is a statistical certainty.
And I definitely, perhaps ideologically and unfairly and possibly without justification, totally attribute that to just an insufficient number of players in the space. And it's like, all I want to see is more players in the space so that everybody sees more Magic and can tell good Magic from bad.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, right? If you're the only guy in your town who does Magic, you can do the same ambitious card routine at Chili's for 10 years, and that's a gig. But if there's a bunch of kids out there and they're doing cardistry and Magic stuff, and they're into, they're into whatever people are into, I think that's great. It should light a fire under people's ass. People should be coming up with new stuff.
Yeah, ultimately, that is what I hope, and I think that there is a lot of reason to point to it, is that I hope what has happened to Magic over the past 10 years and continues to is effectively what happened with comedy, going from, the 80s kind of very hack, very stock kind of boom to, what alt comedy became in the 90s and the lionization of performers that had been there forever, like George Carlin, who were very theatrical and very kind of almost one-man showy in their presentations and just taking things in a million different directions in a way that is flowering and rich and not just take my wife, please, which to me is what every guess what? I know the answer.
Airline peanuts, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. Which, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this wound up being more negative than I think it probably could have been, because I think we could probably have an equal conversation about what we love, about the best things in Magic. And that's, I think, what was so rad about starting off with that picture of really some of the great creative thinkers, I think, in Magic currently.
Well, you know what else was cool was that show. That was probably a 2-hour show, I think, at the Peacock that we saw. Yeah, hell yeah. It was like a 2-hour show, and it occurred to me at the end that nobody did a card trick. I don't think a deck of cards made an appearance in that whole show.
Yeah, and I don't even know, given that crowd, if a deck of cards did occur, that it almost certainly wouldn't have been the star of the act. The deck of cards would have been an incidental, random selection generator of some variety.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Hey,
and Brian did a bit in that show where you produced a holiday beverage from your nose.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We did talk about this on Africa Babble, but we did not talk about it on Night Attack. Hey, man, people ask for advice all the time, and my advice is get out there and fail a lot. 20 years later, I'm still following that advice.
Oh, no. Was it the crazy straw?
All I wanted to say about that is, what was the you had this sort of bowl that you poured this liquid into before you siphoned it through your mouth.
Okay.
But what... But what was? Can you just remind me what it was?
Yeah, so traditionally I do the human crazy straw, and so based on the advice of Teller, he said, he says that compositional secret is withhold information, keep me guessing, and make it land in a satisfying way where you're like, oh, I get it now. And so there's a cheesy gag where you shove a tube up your nose and pull it out your mouth. It's called the mental floss. And so the idea was, okay, what if you give a little bit of information at the beginning? Hey, I've done a lot of stupid things. Nothing's dumber than what you're about to see. It's called you're going to figure it out. The only clue you get is that it's called the human crazy straw. And then I set a tank up on a ladder. I fill it with milk, soda, orange juice, a bunch of gross stuff. And then I wrap tubes around my body. And around this time, you're like, I don't get it. And then finally you're like, oh, I guess he's going to drink, making his body into a human crazy straw. And then the twist is that I shove it up my nose and pull it out my mouth and turn my body into this fountain, right? And I've done it a lot, an awful lot, and it was,
including in high-profile positions. You did it on the Tonight Show,
yeah,
right?
on the Tonight Show and a bunch of the daytime talk shows and all that stuff. And Rudy was like, hey, we were thinking something that looked cute and holiday-ish, but then turned out to be gross and crazy. Like at some point they severed the head of Santa during the show. It was great. I was like, oh no, I'll just do that with eggnog, and thinking eggnog, it's pretty much milk.
Oh no, it's not milk.
It's not milk.
It's not milk.
It was eggnog, Coca-Cola, a liter of Coca-Cola.
Yep. Orange
something
juice.
else.
Orange juice. Which
that's one of the worst smelling things it was awful.
Okay. Rudy Kobe loved it because he kept burying his face in it because he loved the crazy milk or eggnog Van Dyke that it put on his face.
I mean, Rudy voluntarily was Marilyn Manson's roommate. Like, he has sensibilities that are beyond those of a normal human.
But it was funny because we talked through how we're gonna do it, and Dan Sperry is super pro, polished as hell, is doing gigs all the time. Same with Rudy Kobe, and so I had them hold the tank. And then we get to the part where I twist the valve and I do the pose for the human crazy straw. Normally it takes about 5 seconds for everything to wrap around and go shooting out of my mouth. And I hear behind me 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. And then I hear the unrestrained, genuine laughter from Dan Sperry, the type of laughter that only comes from one seasoned professional who can clearly see he's watching another seasoned professional in trouble. And so I could tell that something is wrong with how things are going. And so what normally is a 5-second, oh, I get it now, it's a human crazy straw, became about 45 seconds of, well, this will be interesting. How's he gonna get out of this?
It was very funny, but I will never forget how that theater smelled when it was done with that.
It's a gross concoction. It gets gross very quickly.
Yeah,
but
Bryce,
with the eggnog though, that was
that is another level. That
Yeah.
is that adds to the bouquet in a fairly putrid manner.
it was very upsetting.
yeah, no, it was a fun closer to the show, and everything worked out
That
great.
was the closer?
Maybe. Shut up. Fuck you. How about that? That's a closer.
Oh,
And
no.
now we move on to Diamond Time. Hey, if you don't mind sticking around, Max, this is the part of the show where we shout out the projects of our fan community over at diamondclub.reddit.com. There's a big fat sticky post right at the top, and the top 3 entries at Diamond Time we read out right here live on the air. Justin Robert Young, would you like to take number 1?
Yes, indeed, I would, Brian. B.S. Chen's, right? I'm asking Diamond Club to send good thoughts to my father-in-law as he recovers from having his foot amputated due to diabetes,
Oof.
evil disease. Jesus. Yeah. No, fuck diabetes, and all our best to your dad.
Sign writes in, and with the hashtag Brian's Black Sun. My Black Sun says, "Sup, D Club, I just launched a podcast." Oh, congratulations, man. Virtual Log is a celebration of online worlds and the people who inhabit them. In each episode, he dives into a particular world of a digital event, past or present, to document the powerful impacts that digital worlds have on people. Did you know that the business chat app Slack is based on a failed MMO? No? Well, then listen to the first episode and And then while you're at it, throw a subscribe and a review. It's available everywhere or at Virtual Log. That's VIRT, whatever, Virtual Log. How do you spell it? SCYNE. That's the one I needed to spell.
Virtuallog.sign.com.
Correct.
And then finally, Ryan 052 just points to r/D's knees.
Oh, have you guys seen?
No. Oh my God! It's us in the
populated.
movie.
It's been
Is
used.
this a fetish community for knees?
Okay, we might have manufactured this fetish community. We might have encouraged it to become a thing, and now it's taken on a
those
life
are
of
children.
its own.
This is 8 days ago. Those are the bees.
Is this someone's special thing?
We assume that it should be a special thing, and we encouraged the community to make it, and now it appears to be a real thing.
Did you guys see the story this week about, you know how Republicans are like they've like gone insane? They're mad about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the cool
dance.
congresswoman from yeah. They're like making up things to be mad about with her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there was such a good one this week. Let me see if I can find this story. So basically, there was a post going around some like right-wing circles where it was like a picture of a woman in a bathtub, and then in the reflection of the bathtub, of the like faucet, you could sort of see that she was nude, and people were posting like, "Oh, that's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like that's her like leaked nudes, that's like AOC." And so here's the story. So the foot fetishist community bailed her out of this.
Yes.
So this feels like it's right up your guys' alley. But this is, yes, there it is. Yeah, this is from Vice. Let's see. But the person in the photo isn't her. We don't know how many people actually believed it was her in the first place. And in some of the forums where the image was posted, people were already comparing feet and questioning whether it was her. But we know for sure, thanks to a user on a site called WikiFeet, a site devoted to foot fetish photos of celebrities and public figures. There's a small collection of Ocasio-Cortez's feet on the site from photos of public appearances where she's wearing sandals or open-toed shoes. That user cross-referenced the Reddit photo with known images of Ocasio-Cortez's feet posted on WikiFeet and determined that they are from a different person. Quote, "I am a contributor to WikiFeet, and even I have never seen a second toe like that," Reddit user Jokes on You commented on the post. I asked Jokes on You how they spotted the difference. Quote, "I've sucked enough toes in my life to recognize when something doesn't look right. They told me in a DM."
This is amazing.
I'd like to imagine in my head canon, that's like Robin, you know, like he's like honing his world's greatest detective abilities, but it's just him trying to debunk myths on WikiFeet.
Okay, well, what about this? Gritty. All right, guys.
All right.
You guys know people. You're connected. What about this? Gritty reboot of Batman. He gets a new assistant, his new protege or whatever.
Yeah.
New protege, foot fetishist. He's on WikiFeet. Any foot-related mysteries that Batman has to investigate, foot-related villains he has to take on, that's a special power.
I love this idea of him like auditioning, and maybe this guy okay, so Robin dies. He's like, "I need a new Robin," and he's like, he's like, "You got the job. I think you're really good." And it's like it takes him a while to figure out.
Our joke's on you. You're my new ward.
And he's like, "Well, this diamond's been stolen." And he's like, "Well, I see footprints. Oh, that's certainly a reasonable thing to notice." He's like, "Yes, size 9.5. Wow, this kid's good. Slight bunion
Brian,
on the left
you
side."
gotta do what you love, you know?
Yeah, and it just keeps on going. And at some point, Batman just taps out, where it's too specific, bro.
Then he's like, Robin, you got to run these hair samples. Oh, no clue.
Maybe they get into a fight, and Catwoman takes him down, and she's like stepping on him with her heels. But what does that do? That only powers him up.
There we go. He goes like full Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So
Hulking out.
It feels like there needs to be a bunch of fortuitous foot-related ways to solve crimes, and then after like the 6th episode, we find out that he's been committing the crimes so he can solve them based on his own foot knowledge in order to be.
It seems like there's another pantyhose store that's been knocked over.
Get DC on the line. This is better than anything they've made.
I don't know. Did you see Aquaman? I think we talked a little bit about it.
I'm gonna pass. I've been.
Oh no, you have to
fool me once.
No, you have to. You have to go see it. It's a
Those
must.
movies are so powerfully not for me. Listen, the best thing I can say about any superhero movie is that it's so good, it's almost as good as a real movie. And that's like what I would like. What's the best superhero movie? Like I saw the Spider-Man one, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was like almost as good as a real movie.
Yeah, Spider-Man's a
like
tough one.
Black Panther was pretty good. I thought that was like almost as good as a real movie.
Okay,
But, like, damn, am I not going to see
Here's
Aquaman?
All I'll say, Max, all I'll say is number one, every bit of your scoring toward the DC movies is well earned. However, if you want to compare tone, Aquaman has a octopus playing the drums.
Okay,
Like,
well, now I'm on board.
Understand that there's an element of madcap silliness that exists.
You know what's
in that
crazy
movie.
is what was it when what's crazy is like Aquaman came out like 2 weekends ago, maybe at the same weekend as the Mary Poppins sequel.
Yeah.
And Julie Andrews is in one of those movies, and if but not the one that you might guess.
No.
Okay, last word on Aquaman. Question: did you like the movie Flash Gordon from 1979?
I didn't even know that existed.
Okay,
Flash.
all right. Well, it was fun almost being friends with you. Man, how about shall we move on to the winter movie draft?
Wait, is it animated?
The trilling laugh of youth.
Is it animated?
No, okay, you're crushing. I'm an old man. I get it. Fine. Let's move on to the winter movie draft. Hey, we do a fantasy movie league.
I'm googling it, Brian. I'm
Oh,
gonna
God,
watch
you're
it.
killing
Flash
me.
Gordon
You're breaking
movie.
my heart, is what you're doing.
You
Max.
go ahead and Google the movie draft minute.
Welcome to your Movie Draft Minute, presented by CosmicRadio.tv for the week of January 7th, 2019. I'm your host, Roberto Villegas. A victim of a brutal attack finds a unique and beautiful therapeutic outlet to help him through his recovery process. Let's go check the scoreboard. Team Nicole is in 6th place, $250.9 million. Team Core Killers is in 5th place with $352.8 million. Team Justin is in 4th place with $445.4 million. Team John Turker is in 3rd place, $464.1 million. Team Brian is in 2nd place, $565.6 million. And in 1st place, $569.2 million. It's Team DTNS. And that is your Movie Draft Minute for the week of January 7th, 2019.
Justin Robert Young, Tom Merritt is going to win this thing, and he's going to win it because he got Welcome to Marwin, which made $10 million. He's going to win by $10 million. Because there's no way. I think Glass is going to totally shit the bed. I have not been in a single movie theater. Yeah, for the amount.
But like money wise, it might be bad, but you're saying money wise.
I'm saying
Wait a
money
minute.
wise.
The 1980 Flash Gordon film is notable for its soundtrack composed, performed, and produced by the rock band Queen.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing, dude. It's great. Wow. Savior of the universe. So, okay. Glass, I've been in 3 movies where they played that Glass trailer, and it has landed with the audiences exactly 0% of the time.
What is landing, though?
Like, I have overheard 100% of those showings, at least one person saying, "What is that?" Like they're trying to sell it as an X-Men, as we discussed on Cord Killers last night.
Cordkillers.com.
But it's not. The only way that movie is awesome is if you've seen the previous movies, and not enough people have seen the previous movies.
Wait, Brian, you don't think that you have a shot to win? I think you have a shot to win.
I'm out of movies.
No, yeah, but you have one movie that is gonna get a bunch of Oscar nominations that people will probably go see once it gets Oscar nominations in Vice.
Yeah,
and also you have one that just won the Golden Globe in Bohemian Rhapsody that they might push wide again.
That's true, and then also A Star Is Born. So I would say if there's a chance for me to overtake Tom, it's entirely based on Oscars season.
Yes,
but
I don't know how much time do we have left. We got a month and a half left.
Yeah, but meanwhile, the gap is I don't think Glass is going to do great, but I think it'll do close to 100 million-ish, and that's enough to put John Trekker in striking distance of a victory.
I would bet on you before I would bet on them.
Wild. Okay.
Just because I do think between Vice, Bohemian Rhapsody was the big shock at the Golden Globes. Like nobody expected that to win, like the whatever musical or comedy thing. So I would say that all three of those are going to get wider releases, depending on the nominations. And you probably have enough. I mean, if it's that close, if it's about 4 million, you have enough to edge him out, because I think he is totally tapped. There's nothing that's going to come back and make money for him, including the weird fucking doll movie that apparently pushed it past you right now.
Oh, the return of Welcome to Marwen?
Yeah, what the fuck was going on with that one?
I don't know. All I know is that it had a 12% positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes last time I looked. It looked universally...
Like it seemed like a bet. Like,
did you guys see the documentary that's based on, called Marwen Call?
No way, really?
Yeah, so it's a true story, and they made a documentary about this guy, and it's called Marwen Call, and I highly recommend the documentary. It's a wonderful documentary. The movie looks like a real turd, but the Steve Carell movie. But that documentary is very good.
Have you? Last night I watched Vice. Did you see Vice?
Oh,
Max?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm just happy that other people are still mad about the Bush administration. I thought I was the only person who was still mad about the war in Iraq and the Bush administration. I'm going to take that shit to the grave.
So.
By the way, you know that Adam McKay had a heart attack after making that movie and knew to call the paramedics sooner, because he just felt this other, like, it wasn't like him seizing up or anything, but it was some other sensation. But he knew from doing the movie and from Christian Bale explaining to him how he wanted to play a scene because of how all the research he did about heart attacks, that he wound up getting in before, like, to the point where the doctors were like, how did you even know to call us? And he's like on the operating table being like, I did a movie about Dick Cheney.
Wow.
I really enjoyed watching Vice, but I think it's important that there be a gate to anyone considering going to see it. The acting was fantastic. The prosthetics were a lot of fun to watch. There were a couple of super laugh out loud moments. If you are somebody on either side, either on the left side of the spectrum or the right side of the spectrum, and you think you're the type of person that somebody could get your goat with this movie, actually get you divisively upset, then I don't know how much fun it will be. But if you're a crazy, I'm a nut job libertarian third party, I'll never, whatever. I am certainly not going to defend Dick Cheney. But it was as though I peeked into as far left a campout as you could find and got to overhear the ghost stories they tell each other about the one-dimensional characters that made up the Bush administration. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's really interesting. And in your case, Max, it sounds like you'll enjoy it just for the ability to cheer and like fuck yeah on that stuff. And I would love for more Republicans to watch it for the reason that I just described. But I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Americans learn remarkably little from history. I mean, really nothing. We learn nothing from history.
That was actually my favorite part at the end, where and I was told today that it was an actual quote from Cheney, where basically he turns to the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and says, hey, everything I did it because that's what you, the American people, wanted at that time. And it's like, he's not wrong. That's certainly what it felt like at the time.
Yep.
All right, man. And that's Brian watches a movie that nobody else has seen corner. Glad you've made it. Do we have any mail?
Hey, you guys want to go into the mailbag?
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, here we go.
Let's grab that mailbag.
From the Diamond Club.
From the Diamond Club. That sounds grand.
That sounds really grand. All right, we got an email here.
Who's working these clips? This is such good work.
This is all Bryce, the super producer.
This is Bryce.
Neshcom Castillo.
Thank you, Bryce.
Hey, Max. We got an email from Steven. Steven writes, I just wanted to tell my Y2K story. A few episodes ago, we had a whole thing about Y2K.
It's finally going to get us, I swear. This is the year.
A few days after the new year, our power went out. A couple of the neighborhood kids came door to door asking if our power was out and said, we think it's Y2K. I look back and think that it's comical in hindsight because it wouldn't happen 2 days later. That was from Steven, the General Manager DQ Scoop. Thank you very much, Steven.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We also got one more email here from BioCow. Baukow writes, "Hey dudes, first I'd like to say thanks for all the shows that you do. You guys are amazing. I know you open your lives up to us every week and are honest, genuine people. I know anyone who's been a part of your shows or met you in person is honored to call you friends. With that said, there's always more to learn about someone, as Bryce's new podcast, Trending Lemon, has taught us. Available where fine podcasts are downloaded and trendinglemon.com. Thank you, Baukow. So I wanted to ask each of you, Bryce included, if you could share one deep personal secret with us, something that you've never shared on air. It can be a hope that you have for the world, a secret fear that you've never uttered out loud, maybe a small shortcoming or gap in your knowledge or skills that you'd like to work on, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Oh, and do it in a character voice, something that might be embarrassing or too real because, something that becomes embarrassing or too real in a character voice, aka Alex Jones growling, I'm afraid of little dogs. Big dogs are fine, but little ones, you don't know what they're thinking, man.
Man, this is talk about topping from the bottom. Sorry, keep going.
Thanks and love the show and DIAF Biocow.
Do you have a preloaded idea here, Justin?
I mean,
I'm gonna say we don't have to do character voices. I'm gonna say we can.
No, I mean, now that's the bit, right? Is now we have to do character voices. Like we want to follow up with what he said. So, I mean, geez. I mean, how about this, Brian? You give me a character voice, and I'll say something that
all right. In the spirit, since I just watched Vice, give me your best Dick Cheney.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Dick Cheney.
Lean over more.
I fear rejection because of a relationship with my father.
All right.
This bit is incredible.
We did. Okay, we found definitely 2 full episodes on this subject, but I'm going to give you a pass because of that amazing Dick Cheney impression.
I mean, look, yeah, because that's the thing. The secret here is that one of them's gonna work. The secret of the impression.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, go, Brian.
All right. Oh. Wait, do you have one or do you want one? I can give you one if you want.
Give me a voice. What do you got?
Okay, you are a talking dog, but not like a dog that talks, but like when a famous actor like portrays a dog thinking, like in like Milo and Otis or something like that.
Got it. All right, here we go. Woof! Ah, if only I could actually form full syllables. Then you'd know that what I really meant to say to my owner was that early on I was jealous of the pubic hair. Other boys were growing at an early age. And then when it finally began to grow pubic hair on my legs, I became fearful. What if my wish was granted? What if I was going to keep growing hair and became too hairy? That's probably what led to the whole episode where we talked about me epilating my butt.
Oh my God. That was a one-man show. Holy shit.
Max, do you have anything that you want to say that you've never said before on air?
Do I have anything that I want to say before that I've never said before on air? No, I can't think of anything.
Okay.
If people have questions for me, I'll take questions.
Okay, we'll kick it to the audience.
Yeah,
They just got a straight up question for Max.
Yeah, if you guys have something in the chat.
If people have questions or mailbag or whatever, I'm happy to.
Yeah. Oh, and we'll let people post those while I figure out mine. I think I need a voice for mine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Megatron.
Megatron. Yes, you have to do Megatron.
Megatron.
Whether you're familiar with the cartoons, you can do. I will allow a Skyscreamer. That's the only alternative.
Exactly, but one of the two.
By the way, if it helps, Skyscreamer's voice is just Cobra Commander. So that's another one that's not going to land. Yeah, you got this. You got this. I believe in you 100%.
Okay. Hold on. Oh Jesus, this shit also broke on me too. Okay.
How coincidental that all of a sudden the calls got dropped and there's a big technical situation.
It's always at this time when everything breaks. All right,
okay,
I think we're back.
All right.
I think we're back. Okay. Shit. Okay.
I said sorry, Starscream, not Skyscream.
Oh,
Sorry.
excuse me. That's what I was. That's where the disconnect was. You said Skyscream. I thought it was okay. Jesus Christ.
Okay, here we go. Here we are with a real
just
confession.
Also, Bryce, it's very high pitch.
Is it high pitched?
Yeah.
I thought this was more like.
Starscream sounds like this.
No, I thought this was like an Optimus Prime thing.
High as you can go, yeah.
I'll accept.
I got it.
I'll accept a good Optimus Prime if that's
No,
a
you
third
said
option.
one. You said one. You said okay.
Okay.
I gotta warm up. I'm alone because I'm afraid of intimacy. So, how about maybe
This is how all therapy sessions should go in the future. Like, this is a revolutionary way to tell the truth that we've just uncovered here.
I'll tell you, I know at least one marriage that could have been saved if they would have just got this shit off their chest.
Okay, Max, we got a couple of questions here in the chat. If you got a moment to answer a few quick ones.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Spin-12 asked, is there any cards that you've regretted making?
Oh, tons. Yeah, I mean,
Justin.
Oh, we're doing this too.
So Max,
Scatman Carruthers.
There we go.
What is this? Oh, is this a voice? I'm not gonna. What, are you gonna pit me out and do a voice on your podcast?
I was hoping for it, but if you're gonna push back,
you got to do a reference that I know.
Okay, all right, go for it.
Wait, go for what?
Whatever.
Do you have a Scatman Carruthers in you?
Or
no,
any.
Is the Scatman is the guy from the song?
Sure. You want to know what? Let's just go with the Scatman from the song.
Yes. So whatever you say, you got to start with dee bop bop bee dee bop.
Doesn't he have a lot of inspirational catchphrases like the Scatman can do it and so can you?
That sounds right to me, man.
That's the thing he says in the song.
That tracks.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do a funny voice.
That's fine. You know what?
There's many cards that we regret, and we just change them. We take them out of the game every year. We replace like half the cards. So if you haven't played Cards Against Humanity in a while, your copy is old. You should get a new copy because it's completely updated every year.
Very cool.
That's a pretty good
people don't
clubhouse
know
you're
that.
in. You, Magic the Gathering, and Hearthstone have to nerf. Like, you have to nerf cards for being too funny, offensive, or whatever.
Yeah. There's the that's one way to put it. Like the culture changes, and then there's just like topics that become too powerful. They have to be nerfed.
Oh my God, I'm. The culture changes. What a great way to just think of it. Like, I mean, the world is an always shifting landscape. Like there are videos that I've taken down that just shit didn't age well.
Well, and also it's like, you know, there were cards in that deck that, like, you know, back in the day were like Glenn Beck, and that was when he was like on the, you know, television.
Yes, he was ubiquitous. Like Glenn Beck was he was like literally being broadcast like 6 or 7 hours a day.
Mm-hmm. And now he's just a sad guy in Dallas. And
yeah,
it's
I think
like,
he cries a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, who gives a fuck about, you know, the guy whose face looks like a honey baked ham and outside of the DFW?
All right.
I mean, I think this is true. I think this is true of anyone who wants to do comedy stuff. Is like, you know, the world changes. Like when we started making cards, like it was the Bush administration, like very different world. And if you feel like you should be making the same jokes that you were making in 2007 versus 2019, like. Read the room, man. Like things are changing. Like people want different stuff. They have different sensibilities.
Hey, man, on your bingo card, I want you to mark down the subtlest callback to the Magic discussion in the episode. Just go ahead and check that box right there, because that is a problem with Magic.
We have a few more here.
Yeah, go.
Gambling Man asks, "What's your favorite book? Do you have a favorite book or something you've liked reading?"
Recently? Damn, that's a very complicated question. Brian mentioned Patrick Rothfuss's Name of the Wind. That's very, very near and dear to the heart. I read a lot of nonfiction, so I'm really interested in like political philosophy, and I read a lot of political philosophy, which I don't think would be sort of interesting to people. But
have you read? Yeah. I've been spreading the good word of *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus* and *21 Answers for the 21st Century*. You've been reading those?
Yes, all the Yuval Harari books are phenomenal. I think Homo Sapiens. If you're gonna pick one, do Homo Sapiens. Brian, one that you might like was. It's called The
Bible.
It's by Jonathan Haidt, and it's called The Righteous Mind. Why good people are divided by politics and religion.
Literally just 1 month ago, I finally read it, and the follow-up is excellent. The Coddling of the American Mind. I think you would dig that one a whole bunch.
I think that's provocative, but I don't agree with it. I think he's a cranky old man about campus politics. But I like The Righteous Mind. I thought that was a good book about politics.
Did you read all of The Coddling of the American Mind?
I read the Atlantic article when it came out, and
that's fair enough.
I own the book and I haven't gotten to it yet, and I will read it and give it a fair due, but I can sort of anticipate I don't think people know about this. So this whole campus PC crisis that conservatives love to complain about is, and I'm sure he goes into many examples and things like that in the book, it's a manufactured crisis. Like, it's made up. There's these groups on college campuses. One of them, for example, is called Turning Point USA, and they put a bounty on these stories of conservative speech getting suppressed on college campuses. And so these things get manufactured, blown out of proportions, and if you've ever been party to a news story that sort of spiraled out of control, like, it's this weird mix of truth and lies and exaggerations that eventually it gets picked up on these crazy right-wing blogs, and then it goes into like the semi-reputable, like, hacky right-wing newspaper websites like the Daily Caller, and then it gets picked up into more and more reputable things, and it picks up steam until suddenly you're reading about it in a book, or it comes up on cable news, or it's in the New York Times or something like that. But these are all like fabricated stories. Like, the actual threat to academic integrity on college campuses is and always has been from the right. They don't like new progressive ideas. And if people are interested, or if people are actually concerned about academic integrity, they should check out a project called Uncoke My Campus. This is a group that tracks the Koch brothers buying buildings and getting themselves on the boards of college in order to suppress, like, climate science and scientific research and things like that. So those are the ways, using money and power, those are the ways that conservatives attack academic integrity. But people, like, this whole, like, what do people complain about, like, policing language and campuses or safe zones or whatever? It's all nonsense. Like,
sure. And not to get too far on a side jag, but I think the book is more focused on just best practices for exposing more people to more ideas rather than fewer. But I feel like he's such a like, it's like, if your beef is with, like, college students, like, being upset about something, like, just find another, like, I don't know, like, who gives a shit? Like, college students have always been upset about it. When I was in college, people were upset about their issues, and you just have to let people. That's like a part of campus politics. Well,
like, it's.
I think, man, here, let's put a pin in this, because I suspect that a lot of.
I'm just glad, Brian, you've already started a political discussion about a movie that nobody else has seen. I'm glad you've now started a fight about a book that nobody else has read. We can move into radio plays that only you have listened to in the after show.
Oh man, look, hey, let's move into post show. Is there any? Do you have anything you'd like to plug in particular outside of Cards Against Humanity?
No.
Okay, great. Then let's wrap it on up. Hey, Justin, what did we learn this week?
Oh, wait, you know what I'm going to plug that I bet you haven't told people to check out? If you're interested in magic and you were interested in our magic conversation and you want to get yourself on a path of learning about magic that will open up lots of possibilities for you, go purchase Brian Brushwood's Penguin Live lecture.
Oh, wow.
Lecture was such a gift to me, and I was so, I knew Brian, so it was one of the first things I found, and I'm so, looking back on it, I'm so lucky that I watched that thing, and it opened up all this cool performance and all these areas in magic to me, and a really fun way of thinking about magic, and I just love that thing. It's such good energy, very funny. You see Brian's whole stage show and the thinking behind it, and it's amazing.
Wow, that is very, very kind of you to say, and I'm without words. So I guess let's play the lullaby and talk about, Justin, what did we learn this week?
Oh, Brian, we learned that nobody listens to the Bizarre Briefing.
We already knew that.
We learned that there's tremendous value in becoming a Patreon, because you get the pre and post show where all the good stuff happens.
We learned that our new album is called All's Well, a Night Attack album, and it comes out January 22nd, and it has that awesome album cover.
Man, most importantly, we loved we learned that we love you guys, and that we'll see you next Tuesday.
Diana Fire. R.I.P. Limberfingers.
I'm allergic to bees. Oh, Justin Robert Young, every time you go, I get so sad that I wanna drink a warm glass of Drano. Night attack, night attack, night attack, night attack, night attack, night attack. I love you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.